John, hey, it's Todd Stevens. Do you know about the status of Joe and Betsy Ann? Because you guys are up first.
Um, I have not spoken to them this morning. I'm
Okay.
assuming that they're showing up, but Joe was not in my morning meeting, but he might have been preparing for this.
Okay. We're going to give it about 5 minutes. And Gary, are you prepared to go just in case? Because we really can't run behind with the schedule today. Are you prepared to go first if we don't have a show in the next 7 minutes or so?
Of course. I'll be happy to.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. One thing is maybe emailing out the link. Do they have the link?
Yes, they do.
Okay, just checking. All right. Yeah, I'm ready whenever you need me.
All right. Thank you, sir. Oh, there's Betsy. Betsy Ann. Good morning. Betsy Ann, do you know if Joe is going to be with us today, or is John taking his place?
Oh, hi, this is Betsy, and both Joe and John are going to be presenting with the American Printing House.
Okay, looks like we've got John, and we're just awaiting Joe.
Great. I sent him an email, so he should be joining at 9 o'clock. Yes.
Okay, it is 9 o'clock. So let us get started. Welcome, everyone. There's Joe. I want to welcome everyone to the 9th Annual Technology Assistance Division, TAD Symposium. I am Todd Stevens. I'm the president of the Technology Assistance Division for the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, and I've been serving in that capacity since 2012. I want to just remind everyone or let everyone know that they can visit us at NFB Kentucky TAD, and that's Kentucky spelled out, NFB KentuckyTAD.org, NFB Kentucky TAD.org, and you can read about our presenter bios, and we'll have some additional reference information to put on the site for you after the symposium is concluded. But there are also a number of resources that should be helpful to you. So without going on any further, I do want to let everyone know that I have my first test of resilience this morning because I'm not used to emceeing. Sandra Williams has been our mistress of ceremonies for a number of years, and she does a fabulous job, and there's no way that I can fill her shoes, but I'm going to do my best. Sandra is under the weather today. She is listening, but she's lost her voice. So without further ado, let's get started with our first presenters from the American Printing House for the Blind. We have Betsy Ann Huggins, who serves as the training specialist. Betsy, what was the other position? I'm drawing a blank. Engagement. I'm sorry, engagement and
yes, we all have long job titles.
Yes, engagement and training specialist, and she deals primarily with low vision technology. Joe Hodge is the technology product manager, and he deals primarily with blindness technology. And we have John Carr with us, and John is a software development. He deals with software development. He is an engineer, and he is primarily focused on mobile applications. We have a little bit of we have a theme song for all of you, and Phil, if you would get that going so that they can get started with their presentation. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. What a pump up jam to get us started this morning. You'll have to imagine us entering the boxing ring. We're all wearing our boxing robes. We've got our gloves raised in the air, and we're ready to fight. So thank you so much for having the American Printing House for the Blind with you this morning. We are so excited to join you virtually. While COVID has prevented us all from getting together in person, it has given us the rare opportunity to get to visit with so many folks across Kentucky and across the nation. So we're really excited to be with you this morning. We shared a document list with NFB, so we're going to be talking about a lot of links, a lot of emails. Don't worry about writing them down right now. You can grab all of those from our document. So there are 3 of us here this morning. We're going to be going through several of our most recent products, some products we'd like to tell you about, and then also some services. So for those of you who don't know or are unfamiliar, the American Printing House for the Blind, we're based in Louisville, Kentucky. We are next door neighbors of the Kentucky School for the Blind. So welcome our KSB students today. We're really excited to be able to talk to you. It's funny that we're next door, and this is the first time we're getting to hang out with you in probably a few years. So thanks for being here today. We are a federally funded organization whose mission is primarily to serve students who are blind or visually impaired. And so while our primary consumers are students, we design and innovate products that are available and also valuable to the adult consumer community. So we're going to start off our day with Joe Hodge. Joe is going to be talking about some of our newest Braille products and some updates to those. So thank you, Joe. Oh, and Joe, it looks like he needs help unmuting himself. Let's see if any of our presenters have any suggestions on how we can allow Joe to unmute.
I had a message that said the host wants to unmute you, so the host may have to do that.
So Joseph Hodge, that's the one we need to get unmuted, and whoever is hosting the Zoom will need to do that.
So can you help Joe with that?
I got a button that says ask to unmute. I clicked it a couple times.
You can't unmute people without their permission because it's a safety thing Zoom has.
Well, I know this morning I had to request to be unmuted. Joe, do you see that? I don't know what device you're on.
Joe, what I think might work best is if you get out of Zoom and you come back in. We'll see if we can get you unmuted. There should be a tab or a button that pops up.
There was a little pop-up window.
Right when I came in. Yeah, so apologies. We'll get Joe in.
Not a problem.
All right, Joe is back and he is still muted. All right, so John, I'm going to actually ask that we jump to you first while we get Joe sorted out and see if someone can help him get unmuted. Yeah, John is with us today. We're really bringing him into the conference fold. And so he'll be talking about some really exciting apps that APH provides that are either free or very low cost. So take it away, John.
And the first app I've got is CodeQuest. It's a free app for iPhone or for iPads. The app lets players play through 30 levels where their main objective is to program a route for an astronaut to follow so they can get back to his ship. And along the way, the users will learn coding concepts so that they will get progressively harder in problem-solving skills and different looping structures, things like that. And you use like arrow keys to be able to move around on it. And that one's free for the iPad. The next one is Talking Typer on iOS. And this is for iPhones and the iPad. And is available for purchase for, I think it's $4.99. Talking Typer is an accessible typing and computer keyboard tutorial app with 35 built-in lessons and a fun game to help increase speed and accuracy. The game included is called Hurry Scurry, and in it, students would earn points by typing in letters before the ball drops. It's like a little like ball animation that drops on it. And then the next one is Crossword Puzzles. This is an accessible web app for solving crossword puzzles. It has a bunch of different built-in apps for grades 6 through 11, but users can also open pre-existing puzzles as long as it's a .puz file. And you can find those online, or you can even create your own. And if you look in the user guide, they have links to how you can create your own there. And then the last app I've got is the Practice to Master Abacus. This app is still in development, but it's planned to come out in early 2022. The app teaches users how to solve problems by using an abacus, and has a lot of different lessons ranging from the abacus basics all the way to division. And it has a virtual abacus that's accessible for students to use during practice or drill mode, even though the actual physical abacus is recommended. The teachers and parents can also create their own problem lists and send them to their students so they can use those in the app. And currently we're doing field testing with that. So if anyone wanted to do that field testing, they could contact Lee Zhao at APH, which his email is lzhou@aph.org. And that field testing is going on until December, the end of December.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John, for sharing more about the apps that we provide at American Printing House. So our name is the American Printing House, which kind of belies the fact that we are working on so many different products. The American Printing House is always trying to update to the newest technology and provide resources that are really at students' fingertips. Many of our apps, as John was describing, are really well suited to student populations. I really enjoy our apps. I wish I had an iPad and could play Code Quest. It's a really fun game that does introduce those early concepts of coding. So if we've got students who are really interested in STEM, it's a fantastic way to get started. So thank you for talking about those apps. I'll jump in and talk a little bit about our newest innovation in magnification. And also talk about some of the services that we provide, especially we've got our students here from KSB. I want to make sure they're aware of this new service called the Transition Hub for those of you who are considering what happens after high school. We've got some services through APH that might really benefit you. But first, let's talk about the Juno. The Juno is the newest magnifier in our platform of magnifiers. You guys might be familiar with some of those, like the Video Mag HD, the Jupiter, the Mac Connect. Well, the Juno is joining that family. It's a 7-inch magnifier with touchscreen, and its big feature is OCR, or optical character recognition, which gives it the ability to read out loud using text to speech. It has this really awesome camera at the front. It's a barrel camera that rolls into 5 camera views. So you can do everything from self-view, use your Juno to put on makeup, pluck your eyebrows, shave your face, make sure your collar is ready and your tie is cinched up correctly before you head into that business meeting. It can then completely turn 180 degrees for distance view, for reading mode, and also for hobby mode. So for those of you like me who really enjoy crafting, this is a really great opportunity to be able to use your magnifier while knitting, crocheting, collaging, doing art projects. It's a really fun device. We've really enjoyed getting folks excited about the Juno as our newest product. But let's jump into our Connect Center. The Connect Center used to be a part of the American Federation for the Blind, and they turned those services over to us a few years ago. And our abilities with the Connect Center are still growing and changing as we work on making those services as robust as they can be. So the Connect Center is the kind of overarching umbrella term for several different, we call them hubs. The first one I'll tell you about is Vision Aware. Vision Aware is a hub primarily for older adults who are blind or have visual impairment. It provides resources on finding help after a diagnosis, gives some information about useful technology, and some resources for living with vision loss. Really fantastic resource for our community. The next one I'll tell you about is the Family Connect Center. This is for parents with young children. Really great resources for the community. I really do hope that this audience will remember some of these Connect Center hubs. So the next time they're talking to someone who says, oh, I really need resources, I need help, you can always go to the Connect Center and find what you need. Career Connect is one that is really growing, and this is a resource for job seekers who are blind or visually impaired. Not only do they have lots of information about how to find a job, how to write a resume, tips for succeeding at work, when to disclose conditions during the application or interview process, they also have this really great job postings board. Job postings are refreshed pretty much every day, and you can go there and check and see who's hiring. Speaking of which, APH is always hiring. You can go onto our website and check out the newest jobs that we've posted. I've been at APH for just a little bit under a year, and we are growing. We are a growing company still, even after so many years of service. We keep finding ways to explore and connect with the community. So finally, I'll talk about the Transition Hub because we've got our KSB students here. The Transition Hub is a really valuable part of the Connect Center, especially for our middle school and high school students who are planning what's next. What am I going to do after high school? It's got really valuable information about making that transition to college or career, what paths you might want to take. And what's really valuable about the Connect Center is there's a 1-800 number you can call during business hours in Eastern Time, and someone will be available on the phone to assist you. That number is 1-800-232-5463, or you can email the Connect Center at connectcenter@aph.org. And again, those are included in our resource document, so no need to scramble for a pen or pencil. So if you've got questions, if you've got concerns, that number and that email are always available for your questions, and they can help get you connected to the service that will best support you. So really exciting stuff happening at the Connect Center and in our low vision services. So let's check in on Joseph and see if he was able to unmute. All right, I don't see him in the meeting right now. John, am I missing
He
someone?
was there for a second and he unmuted, and I saw that, and now he's
Oh,
not
man.
here anymore.
No worries. Well, at this point, we can pause, and if there's any questions that folks would like to ask before we get Joe in to talk about our Mantis and Chameleon refreshable Braille displays.
Oh, there he is.
Joe, are you able to get unmuted?
He doesn't have a microphone right now, it looks like.
Oh, here he is. He's connecting to audio. And
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
There we go.
sir.
We got
my
you, Joe.
goodness. This has been crazy today. Sorry. Not the optimal audio probably that I want, but we are on the phone, so it'll be what it'll be. So I apologize.
Joe, not a problem. Before you get started, though, I did have one quick question for Betsy Ann regarding the jobs that are available. You said that you're always hiring. Are they remote positions, on site, or both?
That's a great question. It really depends at APH. many of the jobs that we used to say had to be on site in Louisville, Kentucky, with ability to get into the office on a regular basis, are now being very much more flexible in terms of folks working from home. I think, like most businesses, COVID has really taught folks that unless you need to be hands-on in the building, for example, some of our factory workers on site, there is real flexibility in what jobs can be done remotely. So for example, I live here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a Louisville, Kentucky native. I love living here. I have a sister up in Minnesota. And so when I go visit her, I can work remotely up there. So there's, I think, a lot more flexibility with many of the positions that we are hiring, especially because we're growing our resources is within the Connect Center. So we've just hired someone who's working on our Vision Aware program, who is not a local, Richard Rueda, who runs our the Career Connect. He's in California. We're also hiring regional specialists across the country who can serve specific populations really in their backyard. So far we've hired someone for the Southwest who lives in Florida. We've hired someone in Washington State and someone in Wisconsin. So we're always growing this team, and many of the jobs that are becoming available are can be done virtually. So I hope that answers your question.
Very well, thank you.
Of course. So Joe, we're going to turn it over to you.
I had a question.
Oh, great.
Okay. I guess I don't know if I heard, if you probably may have already said this, but what about jobs concerning customer service, like information referral, like if working from home that way, like if if they call in, they want to say, I want to speak to someone about Braille proofreading, that person would be able to transfer them to the appropriate person. What about that job? Is that
we are actually hiring. I've got the page up in front of me right now. We are currently hiring 2 customer service specialists, one who lives on the East Coast in Eastern time, and most of Kentucky falls into Eastern time, except for the very far western portion, which falls into Central time. And we're also hiring someone on the West Coast who can do those later hours. So yes, you just be checking our sites frequently as those postings come up. So thank you for that question. All right. We call him Hollywood because he's got the skills to thrill. Joe Hodge, are you ready to talk about our refreshable Braille displays?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you. We got
Okay.
you, Joe.
All right. So I'm here today to talk about our 2 Braille displays. We have the Mantis Q40 and the Chameleon 20. I talked about them last year, but we had some exciting updates that I'm going to go over here in a few minutes. But what I want to talk about first is for the folks who are new. We have some new KSB students. They may not have heard about these, and we may have some new attendees that may not know about these. So I'm going to go over a quick overview of the 2 displays and why you might choose one or the other. So I'm going to start with the Mantis Q40. It is a 40-cell Braille display, and it has on the front 4 thumb keys and a home button in the middle, which I'll come back to in a little bit. On the left-hand side, it has a USB-A port, a power button, and a USB-C port. On the back, it has an SD card slot. And on the right, it's bare. There's nothing there. On the front of the device on the top is a QWERTY keyboard. Why this is important, or kind of the idea behind this, is to assist people in STEM learning and education, but also as adults in the working world with using screen readers with their native commands. So on this, you can set up the caps lock as the insert, for example, and you can do insert F7 for your links list with JAWS instead of having to do a 3 or 4 command key in Braille if you were using a Braille input keyboard. So It's super nice as far as the keys. They're very tactile. It is there is a bump on the F and the J key, as well as the F4, F8, and F12, so you can easily find those function row keys. The Chameleon, I'm going to move to that, is a 20-cell Braille display. So the device is going to sound very similar. On the front, we have the same 4 thumb keys. We have a home key in the middle, which I'll come back to in a second. And on the left-hand side, we have a USB-C, a power button, and a USB-A port. The USB-A port on both devices is just for connecting like a thumb drive. On the back is an SD card slot. And here's the coolest part of the Chameleon. On the right-hand side is volume keys and a headphone jack. We are actually getting ready to announce text to
We might have lost Joe. Joe, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you back.
Okay. So the text to speech is coming soon to the Chameleon. It's going to have text and Braille, text to speech and Braille. The text to speech will only work in the local mode, so you'll be able to use it in the editor, book reader, etc. But when you're connected to a terminal device, such as a screen reader, you're going to use that for speech. So that's a little overview of what the 2 devices look like. I'm going to go over a bit of the software real quick. So the Chameleon and Mantis ultimately, besides text to speech, run ultimately the same software. So the file menu system looks exactly the same at this point. So for example, in the main menu, we have an editor, we have a terminal, we have a library where your books come from or reside. We have a basic calculator. We have a file manager system, so you can copy, cut files, move files. And we have a online services, which offers Bookshare and NFB Newsline content. So one of the nice things is this actually, both these devices have Wi-Fi. So you can connect to your Wi-Fi, download your newspaper in the morning, and read that on the go. So it's kind of like a Kindle, if you will. Pre-COVID, I used to use this all the time. I would get up in the morning and sync the paper and read it on the bus, for example. But since COVID, I've gotten lazy and I just read in my recliner now. Usually connected to my iPhone. Some important updates. I covered one for the Chameleon already, and that's text to speech. That's coming soon. But updates you can take advantage of now that we didn't have last time we talked. And I'm excited to tell you about this first one. We are actually working on Chromebooks now through USB. So that's really exciting for the KSB kids. You guys might be using Chromebooks possibly. They're starting to make more and more of a dent. As time goes on, they become more and more accessible. So we are working on them now with USB only at this time. We also offer the ability now to copy from a book to the editor. So that was something that was missing in previous versions. But now what you can do is you can copy text from the book reader and move it over to the editor. One of the nicest features I like, especially, this is on the Mantis only, this feature here, but it's really awesome. You can take text you can write text on the QWERTY input and you can move it over to your host device. So for example, sometimes like if you're typing on iOS, you can have a buffer, or maybe you've written down a note that you don't want to write again because it's long or it's kind of tedious or something. You can take that text and you can copy it from the device to your host device with a command. So it's really cool, and it works with Windows, iOS. It's really neat. I've used it several times. One of the other features we offer is Spanish is now available on the Chameleon, the Spanish language. And one of the other really neat features that I like about these devices is that they are typical like Humanware helped us develop these. So they got the thumb keys, so everything sort of moves through the system as normal, like a Humanware display would. So if you've ever used a Humanware display, this is going to feel right at home to you. Why would you choose one or the other? So this is the important question. So, these things do cost some money, so you may only have one choice or the other. Both of these are portable. I will say that. I could travel with either one. The Mantis is a little bit bigger because it has a QWERTY keyboard, and it's also a 40 cell display, but it still could fit in like your laptop part of your book bag. The Chameleon is much smaller. In fact, Betsy Ann and I were kidding. This wouldn't work with women's shorts or jeans, but I've actually gotten it in my pocket before. So it is fairly small. But so it kind of just depends on your lifestyle and what you're wanting. Sometimes people like a 40 cell display and they won't take anything less. So obviously that makes your choice easier. If you don't mind, or maybe this is your first ever Braille display, I would kind of look at how do you move around a lot? Are you traveling? Because that can make a big difference. There's nothing like being able to pull the Chameleon out in like a backseat of a cab and write a text in Braille, for example, and then put it away, or even just hold it in my hand till I get to my destination. So the Mantis, the QWERTY, it's a little bit harder to do something like that. So the price on these, the Mantis is $24.95, and the Chameleon is, I always get this wrong, so Betsy Ann will have to back me up here, I believe $16.95. Is that right?
I'm pulling it up now, Joe.
Okay. So these devices are really nice. They get pretty much all day battery life, roughly 16 hours on both. Depending on what you're doing, they actually can connect to 5 Bluetooth devices at one time, plus one USB device. So obviously, if you're connecting to multiple devices, you could drain your battery a little faster. If you got 4 computers you're going in between or something like that, your battery is going to take a hit on that. So, but in normal operations, you're looking at around 16 hours. And one thing, since I had to move to my phone, Betsy Ann, if you could give them the user email address. So what we have at APH now, if you want to provide feedback or you want to ask questions and you don't want to necessarily go through the phone, you can actually connect through email. It's a very long email that I wrote down with my computer to read to you today, but I'm away from my computer on the phone. So
no worries, but I can read it out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you could.
It is mantis-chameleon-user-subscribe at tech.aph.org, and that is in the resource document I shared with NFB. Like our titles at APH, our email addresses are also very long, but that's it. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. So I've talked a little bit here about these devices. Does anybody have any questions?
Joe, I do have a question. The text to speech, when do you think that's going to come out? Because we heard late summer, and then we hear Christmas. Is that going to be before the end of the year? Do you have any idea?
My true opinion, I don't want to give dates because that would
Right.
lock us in. But I would say you're probably looking at the first of the year, so sometime first quarter of next year.
Yeah, Joe, I can second that. I think we're going to see the 1.3 and 1.3.1 updates after the first of the year.
We have a student here at KSB that has a question.
Oh, great.
What's your question, Aaron?
My question is, how do you develop the route displays?
How are you guys how are you guys developing the Braille displays?
So we actually work with Humanware on development, but basically what they're using for the Braille technology is something called piezoelectric. So it's actually what's been used in Braille displays for quite some time. There's multiple ways that you can, there's a few ways that you can do a Braille display today. There's piezoelectric, there's pins that rise up with a motor, so motor driven pins. And then there is magnetic Braille displays as well that use magnets to push up pins and lower pins. We are using the piezoelectric. So basically what happens is the electricity drives the Braille up and down. Short answer. I could probably give a whole like hour-long presentation on that, but ultimately what happens is when we come up with an idea on making a Braille display, APH has done this for quite some time. So a lot of what I do or what I've done in the past is we will look at feedback, what we get, what worked, what didn't work from a Braille display. We build off of that. With Humanware, with our partnership with Humanware, we also got to take advantage of what they've learned has worked or not worked. So they've had long stints in the Braille industry with the Braille Note, et cetera. So we were able to kind of take part. A lot of what you see in the editor was written, by both of us. So things like bookmarking or that feature I mentioned recently about copying text over was something that we brought over. But as far as the hardware goes, it's all done. We all kind of sit and we come up with a shell idea, what would be easy to carry around, pros and cons of weight, plastic versus aluminum. And then you pick the electronics you're going to drive with. So piezo is probably, out of all the ones I mentioned, is probably the most expensive, but it's also the most reliable at this point. So there's the other technologies are still sort of advancing.
Yeah, and as Joe was saying, we are partnering with Humanware on these products, but so many of these products go through updates, and those updates really come from our community. We're always listening to folks who have these products or are interested in buying these products for what they're hoping to see from the Mantis and from the Chameleon. So we do advise people to use that very long Mantis Chameleon user subscribe email to send us their ideas, their thoughts, what challenges they might be having with the Mantis or the Chameleon, and that helps us develop those next updates.
And one of the great things, Betsy Ann, is I think your name was Aaron that asked the question. But since you're a student, we really love to have your feedback because we want to know, are we doing everything a student needs during the day? Are we meeting your needs with the Braille displays, or something that it's not doing that you need it to do? So definitely please join that list and give us feedback as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our KSB students for that question. I see Lonnie has a hand raised.
Yes, I have a quick question. From a tactile perspective, is this going to be like the Orbit as far as the sharpness of the pins, or is that kind of more of what we would see with like a Braille Edge?
It's more of what you'd see like with the Braille Edge because it's the same. The Braille Edge is piezo, so it's kind of the same technology in a sense. There's a little difference between HIMS and Humanware as far as, in my opinion, like with touching them with feel of Braille and crispness. But everyone kind of has a different preference. So it won't be as sharp as the Orbit. You can kind of push down on these pins and get them to go down because it's just electric driving them.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we'd be happy to take any other questions.
Any hands raised?
Quiet group.
Okay. Betsy Ann, Joe, and John, thank you both. Thank you three very much for your presentation. It was wonderful. And Betsy Ann, I will I've got the documents, and I'll put that on our website for our participants.
Thank you guys so much. We really enjoyed being able to speak with you this morning. Thank you for your patience as we got everybody in. But we are really glad that we had the opportunity to share some news from APH with you. And hopefully next year we get to do this in person. We get to come and see folks at different events. Let's all knock on wood for that.
Well, you have an early invite to our hopefully in-person symposium next year. APH has always been a part of our technology symposium, and you've been a wonderful community partner, and we thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having us, and have a great rest of your symposium.
Thank you very much. I believe it's time for a door prize. Helena, if you could unmute.
Hello, everyone. In honor of our last presenters from the American Printing House and all the great information they have brought to us, I would like to give away our first door prize of the morning. The door prize is a $25 Amazon e-gift card. To claim this card, I need our lucky winner to
Helena, you're breaking up.
Gmail.com in the next 10 minutes. Yes, I will, and I'll spell it out.
I'm gonna have to jump in, Helena. You broke up on that. It's door prizes, NFBK at gmail.com.
NFBK at gmail.com. And I will need the winner to provide a code word. It is, what was that?
Can you repeat that code word? You're breaking up a bit, Helena.
Hello?
Okay, can you start from the top? Because you broke up quite a bit there.
What happened? Hello?
We can hear you.
Todd? Oh, okay. All right. I apologize. Like I said, send it to door prizes, NFBK at gmail.com. Provide the code word strength. So let me pull a name. Hold on one second. And the lucky winner is Chris Ziegler. That is Chris Ziegler. Zeigler. All right. Looking forward to giving away another door prize. Thank you.
Thank you, Helena. We are running a bit ahead of schedule, and we want to do this because our KSB students will have to leave at 11:30, and we don't want them to miss any part of the presentations on the agenda. So we're going to go ahead and Gary, if you are ready to go, we are ready for you.
All right. Okay, well, thanks. I'm a jazz lover, so I'm also a bit older than some of you out in the audience. Thanks to President Todd Stevens for inviting me today. and thanks to all of you in advance, and especially KSB. I'm really keen to get your feedback on what I'm talking about. And this is the first presentation I'm giving at any NFB event. So this is exciting for me. My name is Gary Bartos, and I'm the founder of a tech startup in Boston, Massachusetts called Echobatics. I've been working in image processing since I graduated from college 26 years ago. Feel free to calculate my age. I won't be checking your math afterwards. But this morning I'm going to talk about several technologies we're working on. But first I want to make my most important point, and that is I need your help. I need your help. There are three kinds of help I'm asking for. Number one, tell me what assistive technology you dream of having. It might be something we're working on. It might be something else. Number two, give our technology and our plans, the stuff I'm going to be talking about today, an honest assessment. And number three, I want you individually, not just as a group, but individually, help me and my team convince big tech companies to produce new technology like smart glasses that have the power to do a bunch of different things. I'll be talking about that a little bit more later. So many, maybe most of you have heard the phrase, nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. So you don't develop assistive technology or provide accessibility solutions without including members of the blind and visually impaired community, right? Seems pretty obvious. And yet a lot of companies don't even approach the community until they've actually developed something. So anyways, this phrase, nothing about us without us, that applies to my team. Half of Echobatics team members are blind. And I'd like to mention them briefly. And I'd like to think maybe someday you might be a member of the team. So Jerry Barrier is the recently retired director of assistive technology at the Perkins School for the Blind, and he's a key advisor. Jim Marston, a man who became blind in adulthood, was a member of the academic team that pioneered GPS-based navigation with audio feedback for the blind in the 1990s. So all this technology that we have now, Jim is one of the first people to have worked on it, and he's one of our advisors. Lindsay Azzolino studied as a cognitive science at Brown University, and she currently works as an assistive technology expert at CVS, pharmacy company. And she and I share a love of bats. Again, the company name is Echobatics, so you can see where bat comes in. Matt Schifrin, some of you may have heard of, made a name with his website, Lego for the Blind, which in time led Lego, the company, to creating accessible instructions for 25 different Lego sets, last I checked. And it's one of the stories that he tells in his podcast called Blind Guy Travels. And our first intern, Syed Rizvi, currently a student at Harvard Law School, was former first vice president of the National Association of Blind Students. And he just graduated from University of Texas at Austin 2 years ago. So why am I mentioning these people? They're here in the beginning, or they have been here since the beginning. And so I want to call back to those three calls for help that I mentioned. And I'm going to give you examples of how the people that I just mentioned answer those questions. So first question, what assistive tech do you dream of having? What do you want most? Gary Barrier, again, this is the retired assistive tech director at Perkins School for the Blind, and a man who's been in assistive tech for decades. He named two things: touchscreen accessibility, kiosk accessibility, and indoor navigation. And I'll be talking about both of those today. Question number two, what about an honest assessment of our plans and our technology? We want to do new things. We want to do things, we want to make things people actually want, not what sighted people think you may want, but what you actually want. So Syed Rizvi and other team members test our technology and give, I'll be honest, very blunt feedback. Todd Stevens and Laura Stevens have also tested one of our apps, and we've gotten feedback from them as well. I'll come back to that app. Now, the third question I'm going to be asking, and this is where I really need help beyond, yes, I'm sure people say, oh, hey, can you test this for me? There's new technology coming. When it's coming is going to depend in part on how many people we can say, who can say, I need it, I want it. That sounds cool. So how do we build a groundswell of demand for new technology and then bring it to these big tech companies? I'll be talking about that in detail at the end of my talk, and then I want to switch to Q&A as soon as we can. So anyways, we need to identify what we want, name what's blocking us from getting it, and then advocate together to get it. So I will mention I'm sighted, but what other sighted people typically notice first about my appearance is that I have strabismus. And this is relatively common for people who have visual impairments, including my friend and advisors, Lindsay and Matt. So one of my eyes turns outward. That means even though I'm sighted, my depth perception is impaired. So some sports are particularly difficult for me. And because of my outward turning eye, I look different. Some of my behavior is a little bit different. And because of my vision, I don't participate in the same things that many sighted people do. So that's something that kind of headed me in this direction of developing assistive technology. I went to school in Rochester, Michigan. That happens to be the home to the second oldest school for dog guides in the country, Leader Dogs for the Blind. My dad's a serious amateur photographer, TMI maybe, but I ended up working in computer vision. So again, for about 26 years, and that's using cameras and computers for automation in factories. And that's technology that is not generally well known to the public. And we can use that now on mobile devices and smart glasses. So, did I decide to go into assistive tech, or is working in assistive tech just the obvious choice for someone like me? I love to ask questions. So I'm going to share the question that guides my company. How do we achieve tech equity for blind and visually impaired people? That's our mission question. So what does that mean? Why is it different from other companies? What do they do? Tech equity means equal outcomes when everyday technology is used by people who are blind, deafblind, or have low vision. Equal outcomes, not just accessibility, not just usability, but equal access, equal results in equal time. Tech equity, like if you use the ATM, can you use it as quickly as a sighted person? If not, that's technology we're working on. So I'm going to briefly discuss one thing that we worked on. I want to quickly jump into the stuff that we have in development now. But so here's that question. How do we achieve tech equity for blind and visually impaired people? Last year, one of our answers was reduce the extra weight and bulk of equipment who know Braille, of people who know Braille carry around, compared to like the laptops and stuff sighted people carry. If you don't need, let's say, your Braille notebook all day, is there some way that you can reduce that weight? So what if you could type Braille without a Braille keyboard? So imagine if you reach out in front of you now and you place your hands on a desk and pretend that you're using a Perkins Brailler or a notebook. Now imagine if you could just type on that table or that desk, and then you're wearing something on your hands that detects how your fingers are moving. So you're typing Braille just without the keyboard. And so that's the concept behind our prototype called Echo Braille. So we use an off-the-shelf device for one-handed typing called the Tap Strap. Instead of using, they had a custom alphabet, we implemented it for Braille for two hands. And we found out that this researcher named Josh Mealy had created a prototype called Wear Braille fully a decade ago, but it hadn't been commercialized. And that's a tough question. I'm going to come back to that. So we demonstrated Braille typing. The hardware is available off the shelf, but we faced a problem. Unlike perhaps most of the people on this call, about 10% of legally blind people know Braille. So, and if the hardware costs hundreds of dollars, and you're only going to use this sometimes, maybe you're walking around, you don't want to carry around your otherwise awesome refreshable Braille displays and stuff. What if that didn't sell? Well, then we wouldn't get to the other stuff we're developing. So we moved on to developing a mobile app. So the question again, how do we achieve tech equity for blind and visually impaired people? We can make kiosks and touchscreens accessible, right? Touchscreens are everywhere, more and more every day, but their text and graphics are designed for sighted people. A fraction of these, like McDonald's has a few of their menus, of these touchscreens, appliances, exercise machines, and other kiosks have the accessibility built in, a fraction. But the vast majority of these touchscreen devices are unlikely to be upgraded or replaced for years to come. And the law to force that to happen doesn't exist yet. The NFB is advocating for it, but there's no law in place yet. So we decided to make a touchscreen accessibility app for the iPhone. We're calling the app Point and Speak, and it's currently in beta. So Point and Speak tracks your hand and uses OCR to read the text where you're pointing. VoiceOver announces the text aloud. So if you used OCR on a phone and it's reading, let's say, an entire document, this is different. You're reaching your hand out, you're interacting with something. And it's going to say what, for instance, button your fingers on. So we're going to be adding guidance. So if you want to do something specific, use an ATM, you want to get some cash, or you're heating your lunch for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, or you're using the restaurant menu or a cafe menu you've never used before, the app will guide you from button to button, screen to screen. So if you have an iPhone 6 or later, you'd like to test this, please let me know. On our website, there's a video in which I describe how to use Point and Speak. And if you're deafblind, I can provide a transcript of that video. You can fill out a contact form on our website, and there are going to be a couple different reasons that I hope getting increasingly more interesting. And again, the name of the company is Echobatics. That's Echo, as in ECHO, BAT, as in the animal, BAT, and then IX at the end, echobatics.com. Now I want to talk about the next thing, pre-trip simulation. And I'll let you know, so KSB students, I have your video pinned, so it's occupying my Zoom window so I can watch your reaction, hopefully positive. So I want you to imagine being able to freely explore an unfamiliar building without having to leave your home, classroom, wherever you have a computer. And before you head to this building, you've already practiced your route in a simulation. So I'm talking about virtual reality here. Take a moment to think about navigating a school building. Some of you are in school right now. And, or maybe you're old enough, I know I am, to think back when you were in school and the Bee Gees were the hottest band on the radio. A lot of you probably don't even know who they are. Anyways, so let's say you're in this big echoey cafeteria, or maybe you're in the library, right? And you leave and you walk down, I'm just going to guess here, the West Hall. You pass 2 open doorways on the left. You can hear the difference. You enter a T intersection and you take a right and you cross over a metal strip, clink. You hear that sound, you step on it, your cane hits it, and there are double doors there. This is something you know. Then you take a few steps, you enter the classroom on the right where, let's say, Mrs. Kelly is waiting. So now imagine your school, the entire school where you are right now, as a virtual place that you can visit. So you sit at a computer and you explore the cafeteria, the library, the hallways and rooms, and you do this at your pace, when you want, where you want. And descriptions and directions are provided on a refreshable braille display or via spoken text on headphones. And also imagine that these sounds are spatial audio. That is, when you're passing by a hallway, you're walking, you can hear the hallway going by, right? So this technology is just possible now. And so if you want, you can hear sound effects as you move through this school in this virtual reality. Your footsteps echoing in the big cafeteria. And then as you step in the hallway, they're a little bit more muted. Or imagine you're stepping from linoleum to carpet, how that sounds different and how you use that to know, oh, okay, I know right where I am. So that clinking sound of metal, when you step on that metal strip in the floor where there are those double doors, or the difference in sound as you pass hallways in your left and right. So pre-trip simulation is a tool for you and for O&M instructors working together. It's not going to replace anything, it's a tool. And our goal would be to reduce the number of O&M sessions needed to learn a new route. So let's say you're going to a new building. You're going to, I don't know, a restaurant. You're going to visit someone else's school. So what if you could practice that in advance? And what if you could make it fun? So you could hunt for a treasure hidden in some room in that school. Maybe you want to beat the time that a friend of yours set, navigating from the cafeteria to some classroom. Okay, or maybe you want to dash down the hallway while you're being chased by your principal, who for whatever reason has been turned into a zombie. You know, school's hard. So this pre-trip simulation is in the early stages of research, but this will be our second product after touchscreen accessibility. Now, we're a business. We got to make products. People have to use them. We don't want to develop something that no one cares about. So will this pre-trip simulation work well enough in your browser? Will enough of you want pre-trip simulation? Local people say yes. Do you? I don't know. Can we make it affordable? Perhaps even free for end users? So that is useful as a practice tool, but it would also allow us, pre-trip simulation, to test the interface for a wearable navigation tool. The wearable navigation tool, I'm going to dive into those 3 words. Wearable is going to mean smart glasses. Not everybody in the NFB wears glasses. I can see, you know, looking at you in the KSB library there, that some of you are wearing glasses, many of you are not. But big social media companies, big tech companies are spending a lot of money on virtual reality and augmented reality devices. Smart glasses are coming someday with sensors and processors necessary to support stuff like navigation. That's not what these companies intend, but that's what I intend to do with them. So, and by navigation tool, I mean there's the capability for point-to-point navigation. How do I get from point A to point B? Take me to room 314. Tell me where the check-in kiosk is. Tell me where the vending machine is. But just like with pre-trip simulation, you'd only receive the feedback you want. It's just a tool to integrate with your existing tools and skills. And if you explore a building with pre-trip simulation first, once you're actually in the building, you don't need smart glasses to go bleep, bleep, bloop, bloop, and talking at you every 3 seconds to tell you you're on course, right? You know, you can find your way. So you just may want to confirm that, oh, there's a landmark ahead. Maybe there's a pole, water fountain, whatever you use, or you have the notification tool notify you when you're approaching the bathroom. So that would be our third product, indoor navigation, following touchscreen accessibility and pre-trip simulation. And to my knowledge, none of these actually exist right now in any usable form. So what we really want is to try all 3 of these things together. Touchscreen accessibility, pre-trip simulation, indoor navigation, same hardware that you can have with you and use daily. Now that's going to take some pretty powerful smart glasses. So let's assume smart glasses work well enough, okay? And let's say there are enough people like yourselves who say they would want them if they existed. And further, let's assume these smart glasses have enough features to be worth the money, okay? Now let's take a minute and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand when I'm going to say 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. How many years do you think it'll be before smart glasses like that are going to be available? So they can do touchscreen accessibility, pre-trip simulation. You're sitting at home, you can pretend you're navigating through a school, whatever, and indoor navigation, giving you feedback as you want it. So how many years do you think it'll be before smart glasses like that are going to be available to you? So any guesses? Let's say, raise your hand if you think it's going to be 1 year. I'll see your hand if you think it's going to be. Okay, not many people raise their hand. Okay, how about 3 years? You think this is going to be available? No. Oh, I see one. Couple. All right, teacher out there. 5 years. How many people think this might be available in 5 years? Okay, getting more hands. Good, good. And how about 10 years or more? Okay, and I know some of you are probably asleep, but so, okay, what if I told you that the prototype for these glasses is right here in my hands? My company has 2 pairs of them. So we won a grant from Snap Incorporated, the company that makes the social media app Snapchat. Younger folks out there are probably gonna be more aware of this than some of the older folks. And so they gave us a grant and they gave us these smart glasses to develop touchscreen accessibility for this latest generation. Now, these smart glasses from Snap, they're called Spectacles, are not commercially available. These are R&D quality devices that allow us to prototype touchscreen accessibility and also some pre-trip simulation and indoor navigation. But I think of this as creating the future. We're doing the engineering, but we're going to need your help. Because for the next year and a half, or excuse me, yes, next half year, we're going to be testing and that's limited to people in Boston. Okay, at least that's the current plan. So by legal agreement with Snap, we have to be, and in my company, physically present when someone else uses the smart glasses. But here's where you all in Kentucky can help. For a prototype like these smart glasses, we need to know that they work well enough. That's what we're going to be testing. And the manufacturer of the smart glasses needs to know that enough people would want them. And finally, we need to make sure that they're worth buying. So I'm going to be sharing in the coming months our progress with you. So I'll share them with President Stevens. If you're on our mailing list, if you contact me, you'll get to, for example, hear some of these recorded experiences with smart glasses. And then you can send them on to other people. And then I'm hoping you can help us convince the manufacturer. So this is Snap. There are other companies coming. There's an audience of people for whom smart glasses would be a useful everyday tool. There are a lot of sighted people wondering, what would I use smart glasses for? For gaming. And that's one reason they haven't really taken off yet. But when we talk about some of the stuff I'm talking about, I'm really hoping that we can get enough people to say, these smart glasses are for me. I could use them. They could be useful to me. And we get a lot of people saying that. Imagine if you each recorded a 10-second video, audio clip, and you send it to us. We put those videos together, and then we present it to Snap or one of these other multi-billion-dollar companies. And there's one person after the other saying, I want this, and this is why. I deserve this, and this is why. Or you should make this, and this is how I'd use it. So we're going to switch to Q&A, but I'd like to reiterate the 3 things I'm asking you. Tell me what assistive technology you dream of having. Touchscreen accessibility, pre-trip simulation, indoor navigation. Be nice if it was something I was making, or something else. Number 2, give our technology and plans an honest assessment, honest feedback. Is this boring? Is this interesting? Is this exciting? Do you want to work on this yourself? Try our iPhone app. Anything that doesn't meet your expectations is a bug. Let us know. And then 3rd, help me build up this groundswell of demand for smart glasses. These should exist. I think you should get them first. Not sighted people who are not sure what to do with them, and then gradually the technology is accessible. No, first. It should look cool. It should be fun. You should get them first. That's what I'm looking for. So thank you very much. Open for any questions you have. Good or bad. Positive, negative.
We have a question here at KSB.
Would the glasses only work for those people that have enough vision? They also work with.
So would the glasses work for people who have some usable vision, or would they be able to work with completely blind as well?
Both and more. So these glasses have visual augmented reality feedback. So for example, if you could see, if you have center vision and if you could see a big number or text in front of you, like let's say normally you use a magnifier, then the visual augmented reality built into these smart glasses would be useful to you. Then there's the audio augmented reality. Say you're totally blind. That would be 4 of the people on my team, totally blind. Then we have audio augmented reality. And that means things like something like voiceover, descriptions, something answering your questions, spatial audio. So if you're about to pass a door, imagine you hear the sound of a door opening at your 1 o'clock position, ahead a little bit to the right. And as you approach it, the sound of that door moves because it's coming from this place. It's a virtual thing, but it's coming from the real world location of the door. So you mix those things together along with, if you're doing a pre-trip simulation, the sound effects of stepping on this or stepping on that. So these smart glasses right now have features that we're developing with for people who have low vision, people who have some usable vision. It does have to be center vision because of the way they work. And then people who can have an audio interface. The smart glasses as they exist now do not have an interface like voiceover for a refreshable braille display. So I do not think they're going to work with people who are deafblind, but our app should. It uses voiceover and it should connect to a refreshable braille display. But we do want to connect to other devices because again, we want this to cover anybody who can use it. Low vision, legally blind, deafblind.
All right, another question here at KSB.
But these ones, people who've been blind, like born blind, or would they be only for people that lost their vision? They were young.
So will these work for people who were born blind or people who have lost their vision later in their life, or both?
Yeah, or both. So let me take the first case. If someone was born blind, then they are most likely going to have, you know, O&M skills, worked with instructors, maybe in school. They may know Braille, and there are going to be certain features of these glasses that are useful to them. Someone loses their vision, or if they have a significant change in their vision later in life, and we do have contact with a local hospital called Mass
I think the
Ioneer.
division's over at 12.
No, sorry. Then it's a different set of features, and that's important. So, you know, a lot of technology, a lot of assistive technology is made for one group. And we want to make sure that with smart glasses, like imagine your iPhone, if you have one, your Android phone, it can work for someone who's born blind. It can work for someone who may lose their vision later in life, people who have a lot of O&M skills they've developed over time, or people who are learning these, maybe as adults, when it's frankly harder. Like the iPhone and Android that have features that are going to work for different people in different ways. That's exactly what we're targeting from the beginning with the smart glasses. Whatever features they have, we're taking advantage of all of them. So we're testing with people who have some usable vision first. And then we're going to move on to testing. We're going to spend more of our time testing with people who are totally blind, or are going to rely more on the audio interface. And that includes people who are younger, people who are, let's say, adults in their 30s and 40s, and some people who lost their sight later in life. And hopefully make it fun for everybody. But everybody gets to use them.
All right,
Looks like
got a few more questions here at KSB, Leanna.
How do you plan on coming up with the funds for people who can't afford this kind of thing or need help with affording it?
I heard that. How do we come up with the funds for someone who can't afford this? Well, right now with these smart glasses, we are not sure what the price is because they're not commercially available. I'm assuming they're going to be roughly the price of a new iPhone. I don't know, but that's what I think they need to be. And as far as the funding, where we're going to start here locally in Massachusetts, Massachusetts has the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. And they, for example, will buy technology for people. Different states run differently. So if you lived in Massachusetts, this happens to be the state I know about, if you went into the Mass Commission for the Blind and said, I need this technology for school, I need this technology for work, they will buy it for you. And there is no actual upper limit on price. If you need it, they'll buy it. State funds are, from state to state, it's different, but that's the way I think it's going to work from the beginning. And, you know, in Kentucky, it may work a little different, but if there is any way in the past that you've received any tech, you know, canes, refreshable braille displays, then we're hoping to go through the same sorts of programs. And initially it'll be more expensive, and then we're expecting to become less expensive over time as more people use it. I hope that answered your question. But it's an excellent question and very important. It has to be useful enough to be worth whatever money it costs.
All right, one more here at KSB. Thank you. So would the classes be able to announce an object that they may be approaching?
Yes. Early last year, well before working with the smart glasses, I actually developed a prototype for head level hazard detection. You know, based on how tall you are, whether you're in a wheelchair or not. You know, could have a guide dog and what have you. So the general answer is yes. So these smart glasses have 2 cameras in them. That actually allows them to determine distance to things. What we're going to be able to do that in the beginning are things like tell you something simple that you may already know, like, hey, you're approaching a wall, it's this far away. So in our early testing, that's the sort of things that we do. But then you can approach that wall. And like I said, this is also about simulation. You could say, hey, I want to use the menu for McDonald's. And then the software, you can basically pretend that wall is the menu for McDonald's. Move your arm across it. So you get used to using that menu. But things like that, how far away is this? How far away is, for example, the pole or the door frame or something else that I use, you know, as a landmark? So it can judge distance. When you're moving your hand, if you've ever used one of these touchscreen displays, or if you've heard about one of these touchscreen displays, the instant you touch it, it changes screens. You touch it again, it changes screens. Well, we really need to know where your hand is and how far away it is from that screen before we say, okay, now move your finger forward and push. And so the depth sensing, the distance sensing in these smart glasses is what we're going to be testing in the coming months, so that we can use screens like that. So like in cafes and restaurants, these have become very popular in Boston, maybe in your town as well. So that's a feature that comes with these smart glasses, along with the augmented reality visual feedback. The audio feedback is you can judge distances. And that's what we want to hear is, what kind of objects do you want to know about? Is it stuff on the floor? Is it stuff at your head level? Do you want to know if somebody's there? Do you want to know if you're straying from a straight path? You're going across some big room. Those are the things we really want to know about. And then we'll have a recording of it that you can listen to and say, hey, is this what you were expecting? Thank you for the question.
I have a question. So for like these particular features, do you intend on having them to be customizable? Because like, I know I personally wouldn't really want to know where walls are because I'm using my cane most of the time anyway.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
that some
So,
people would want that. I don't know.
yeah. So just like with your phone, this can't be sitting there and doing everything for everybody all the time. I think one of the keys is, one, we have to have general capabilities. And then, you know, when you set it up for the first time, you say, hey, you know, I want audio feedback. I want to turn this and that off. And it's like playing some video games. When you get into the video game, it walks you through it. And you know, you could try something and decide, I don't want this. I want to turn this off. So we're actually going to be testing, you know, how someone's going to interact with this. So they want to use voice commands, gestures. I mean, these are all things that we know are possible. We got to figure out what people actually want to use. So yes, you could turn on some sort of distance detecting thing, but yeah, most of the people that we talk to, white cane users, especially if they're experienced, are like, yeah, I don't care about that. I might just want something once in a while. Like if it's a place I don't know, just tell me if this is happening. If I'm going down the sidewalk or down a hallway, tell me if I'm straying from straight. Everybody wants something different. Everybody is different. So we need to implement the features most people would want. This whole, you know, whole group, low vision, legally blind to some usable vision, totally blind, and then you just turn them on and off as you want. Thank you.
I have a question, Gary,
Sure thing.
regarding the touchscreen accessibility, have you done any work with some of the kiosks? So that's a major issue for the National Federation of the Blind, inaccessible kiosks.
Yes. So that is a focus of our work with these smart glasses. And in fact, last year, Syed Rizvi and I talked to Anil Lewis, who had said, you know, this is something we've been working on for a long time. This is important. And the same when we talked to other groups. So yes, kiosks, like probably the thing we're going to test is a cafe menu. So you go in, because it represents any number of kiosks, and let's say you want to go in and you want to get a coffee with soy milk, and you want to get a sandwich, and each time you press a button, each screen, and these screens have a bunch of buttons. You press a button, it moves on to the next screen, or it pops something up, right? And then it goes on to the next screen. And a lot of these are not accessible at all. And a local company here in Boston is one of the ones that makes these things, so we can talk to them too. But yes, we're going to, as one of our tests, work with, and a lot of people are asking for this, this is one of the top choices, work with like a cafe menu touchscreen and do exactly that. Test, okay, what is it you want to order? Or, you know, we're going to tell you something to order, and then we're going to guide you and guide your finger from button to button. So not, you don't have to hear everything. You know what you want. How do we complete that task quickly using these smart glasses? That's one of the things we're going to test. And for that matter, when you step in, where is this thing? If someone doesn't have an awareness of where the touchscreen is, they've never been to this place, then we also want to test that. Let's point you in the right direction, then, you know, use it.
That sounds great. The one thing that I would suggest that you look into is maybe working with some of the micro market companies. Their accessibility is spotty, and a lot of it's touch screen. I'm a vendor, certified blind vendor here in Kentucky, and we are getting ready to implement a couple micro markets in the Gateway building, which is an IRS building in Covington, Kentucky, and I believe we have our accessibility issue solved, but there's a lot of folks that are developing the micro markets where that is still an issue, and they don't know how they're going to solve that. So I would suggest that you maybe look into working with them. And I really love your philosophy. I mean, it's a universal design, appealing to the greatest extent, to the greatest number, to the greatest extent possible. And nothing about us without us is our philosophy. And it's just unbelievable how many people think that they can develop things without the input of the people that they're serving.
Would you make an iPhone without talking to someone who had used a phone before? I mean, to me, it seems obvious. I would think it seems obvious to most people that you actually have to engage people. You have to talk to people. You have to be those people. You have to have a team of people who are also going to use it and want it. And so, I'm surprised there are companies out there that are like that, but this is going to be how we do things. It's how we do things now and going forward. When we employ people, we're going to be favoring, not just accepting, but favoring people from the blind and visually impaired community. It's legal. It's one thing to say, oh, we're going to, we have to look at resumes from all over the people. It's another thing to say, you know what, if you are blind and you've developed O&M skills in your life, you have skills most people in this country do not. That is an advantage. We're really interested in talking to you about our jobs. So that's where we're going.
Well, like I said, I'm very impressed, and you and I have spoken before. I'm very impressed with the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And keep it up. And I'm going to also give you an invite to join us next year, whether that's virtual or in person. I'm fascinated by the research that you're doing and the work that you're doing in our community.
Well, thank you so much. I'd happily accept the invite, and then next year, more specifics. And by then, hopefully, many of you will have something of ours in your hands and give me direct feedback. tell me, hey, this doesn't work. Fix this, make it better, and we'll do it.
And
I have a
most,
question.
go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find the raise hand button there, Todd.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, this is Bill Deathridge, and what I was thinking about, a population that you might also want to consider are the senior citizens. You know, with medical technology today, people are living longer, but as they're living longer, they're starting to deal with issues that they haven't in the past. You know, like certain types of blindness are more apt to occur as people are aging. And you were talking about going through like the rehab departments and all for blind and visually impaired people, but they mainly serve either students or people who are working, but the senior citizens, you know, they usually don't serve them. So that might be another population that you look at, because I think there could be a great need for these glasses within.
No, Bill, I think you're right, because two groups that are really important to us here locally are, one, there's the Mass Eye and Ear. So there are a bunch of ophthalmologists there who will see people, typically people who are losing their vision as seniors or as older adults. And then, and I've told it, we have a contact who works there, who's himself blind and works with people who have just gotten the diagnosis. So they'll literally get a diagnosis that, you know, you're losing your vision. And this may be someone who was sighted her entire life. And then they say, oh, the next people to help you are over here. And they don't say this, but I'm just going to sum it up. Good luck. You know, some weeks later, they go to the next thing. And in the meantime, they're dealing with this change in their life. So what we hope to do there is have an on-site assistive tech, if you want to think of it this way, Apple store. You go in, you've got this diagnosis, let's say, and you say, and then Will, our contact there, says, well, you know, here's the situation, here's some things you can try. This might be helpful to you, this might be helpful to you, and let me configure it for you, because this is new technology, and you know, walk you through it. So that's one group. And then the other is in Massachusetts, we do have this organization, the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, that has a bunch of regional and community centers where people come in and they try out some new tech, or someone works with them on magnifiers or screen readers, refreshable braille displays if it's new to them. So it's mostly people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and older. And so the local director of assistive tech for that group, Jerry Feliz, is someone that I visited last year to talk about these very things. Like, we want to come in because more than half of all people who are legally blind in any country are seniors. So it's an important group. They're part of making sure this technology works for everybody. Preferably even simpler than many of our phones, because I know my mom is nearly 80 and she has difficulty using more than 3 apps on her phone, and she's sighted. So we need a good interface. It needs to work for seniors. But thank you very much for the comment, Bill.
Any more questions for Gary? Gary, I just wanted to let you know that I do know who the Bee Gees are. You and I are in the same age bracket, but I do know who they are, and we appreciate you joining us this morning, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the presentation that you put forth.
We have one more question.
Oh, thank you so much.
From KSB, if possible.
So, how did blind people use your phone?
So how would a blind person use your products? The phone?
So for the phone, if we're talking about touchscreen accessibility app, so you download the app. Right now it's in beta, it's in test flight. So if you're interested in testing it, echobatics.com, you can sign up for it, or just connect with someone here, NFB, like President Stevens, and he's got my email address. And so if it's in test flight, you need an invitation right now to download the app. I've got a video in which I explain how to use the app. And the way it works is you hold the phone in one hand, and you do have to point the phone with its camera in the direction of the thing you want to interact with. Microwave, some other touchscreen device. And there we go in the chat. There's the website, echobatics.com. So you hold the phone in one hand, and I think you'll see the problem with this. You hold the phone in one hand, so the camera, the back-facing camera, is pointed in the general direction of the interface you want. And then with your other hand, you reach out, and it's going to announce what's beyond your finger. So that's the way the phone app works. And for other apps like the pre-trip simulation, the way it's going to work is you're just going to hold your phone. You don't have to point it. And as you turn around and move, you're going to move as though you're in a virtual world. But you can also perhaps get that, hey, if you're holding your phone with one hand, you have to point the camera. That's a pain. Nice if it's cheap and it does something useful, kind of like Seeing AI, OCR apps. But where we want to go is toward the smart glasses. But smart glasses are always going to cost more than the app. So we're going to make technology, these three things I talked to you about: touchscreen accessibility, pre-trip simulation, indoor navigation. All of them are going to be available in some fashion as an app. So if you've got a phone, we're going to have something for you. Good question.
Okay, Gary, thank you again. And just to answer a question about funding, I would suggest that people get in touch with the state agency, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and they should be able to assign you a rehabilitation counselor, and they can help you with your technology needs.
Thank you all so much.
Let's give Gary a virtual clap, everyone, and we'll have Helena step up and draw our second door prize.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much, Gary, with Echobatics. I would like to present our second door prize of the morning. It is also a $25 Amazon e-gift card. This time, I need the lucky winner to send an email to doorprizesnfbk@gmail.com, doorprizesnfbk@gmail.com, and please provide the code word ADAPT, ADAPT. That is ADAPT. You do have 10 minutes to get your email in to claim your prize. And let me draw a name. Give me 1 second. The name is Jacob Hack. That is Jacob Hack, Hack. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you in a little while for our third door prize.
Thank you, Helena. Very clear, and thank you. You must have moved to another room, because what a difference a location makes. But you came across very clear. Thank you. Our next guest, I want to welcome to the stage, is Dave Wilkinson, who is a friend of TAD. He's been with us every year that we've had the symposium, with the exception of 1 year where we decided to do a job fair. But Dave, Speedy Turtle, I will have you let folks know what they need to know about you. But let's get Dave's theme music ready.
right. Good morning, everyone. You've done it now. You've given me extra time, and that's always a bad sign. I don't know if the video feed is working on the other end. I do have my video turned on, and I point this out because for folks who can see, I am wearing a shirt that says Team Speedy Turtle and has a tandem bicycle on the front of it. Oh, let's see. There you go. Now the video should be going. If not, send a thing back. But I'm wearing a Team Speedy Turtle shirt that has a tandem bike on the front of it. And there are two turtles that are riding the bike. And the turtles have the faces of me on the back and the captain of the bike on the front. And we're leaving 2 weeks from yesterday to participate in an Ironman triathlon in Tempe, Arizona. And this is sort of our team shirt. And if you're not familiar with an Ironman, and we will get away from this, but it's what my obsession is at the moment. It is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, and at the end of it, you run a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. And then you try to go to sleep. And part of the reason that I point this, that I bring some of this stuff up, is that one, this is indeed what I am obsessed with at the moment because it is a huge undertaking in my life, and I'll be kind of glad when it's over. But two, assistive technology has made a lot of this stuff possible for me. I had no idea when I was getting into all of this just how much technology would enable me to do this. And I'll get into some of the products that I represent and stuff later on, but I do want to spend a little bit of time just talking about a couple of the technological things that I have used to try to make this triathlon possible. Starting with something very simple, I guess not very simple, but something that we didn't have always available to us, which is just an Apple Watch. It's the Apple Watch is the only way that I've found that I can keep track of my swimming distances. And I have a triathlon coach because I don't know how to plan all this stuff out on my own. And my triathlon coach wants data. And so I end up using my Apple Watch to be able to tell him swim distances, how far I've gone, how fast I went, all that kind of stuff. And then he does whatever he wants with that data. And then he sends messages back that say, swim harder, usually. But that's the first bit of technology that I ended up using for this whole sort of endeavor. The next thing that I have centered everything around before, and again, before we get into just sort of some specific AT products, but I wouldn't be able to provide the data that my coach needs without my iPhone. I have a training bike in my basement that has a computer built into the back of it, where the back tire should be, that sends all kinds of data through my iPhone to my coach, how fast I'm pedaling. He can change the tension on the bike so that tomorrow I have like a 3-hour ride in my basement, and he'll simulate hills going up and down. He sends workouts to the bike. The bike then sends information back through my phone to him in spreadsheets. I also end up using my phone to tell how far I've gone on my treadmill when I'm running. I use Bluetooth with my treadmill. It's a treadmill. It's a True Fitness treadmill. And it will show me how far I've gone, what my speed at the moment is, what my average speed was. And again, then that gets sent to my coach. So none of what I'm doing at the moment would be possible, without a team of people behind me, including my wife, who's been extraordinarily tolerant of all of this stuff, but B, without basic technology skills and basic assistive technology skills. And I know that we have a number of people listening from the Kentucky School for the Blind, and students, you're wondering, why am I learning this stuff? Whatever. Well, it's so that you can do things like this, so that you can participate in a lot of mainstream activities. And it's been extraordinarily rewarding for me. The last thing that I'll say about Ironman is that if you want to track me, you can download an app that is just called Ironman from the Google Play Store or from the App Store. And on November the 21st, you can look up Arizona Ironman, and then you can look up me, and you'll get notifications throughout the day that lets you know how I'm doing. It starts 2 hours behind here because it's in mountain time. So it's going to be a long day. And by the time I finish, you'll be asleep. It's going to take me probably 13, 14 hours to finish all this stuff. So you'll have long since gone to bed, and I'll still be out there riding and running and all that kind of exciting stuff. But you can track it if you want to using the Ironman app. So I guess a little bit about just sort of how I got into this field and what I'm doing and some of the products that I represent. My company, Speedy Turtle, to be just totally upfront, I do this sort of on the side. I do digital accessibility work for Hilton Hotels for my main job. But then I also represent a couple of different product lines that are of interest to me, that have proven to be extremely helpful to me over the years, et cetera. And so we'll talk about a couple of those product lines as the morning goes on, and a few things that I found to be really helpful, a few of the changes that have come along, and then we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll let you guys get on with your day. Does that sound like a reasonable plan? I love silence in situations like this. I am in control. So anyway, the first thing that we're going to talk about is a product that, sort of feeding off of some of the things that Gary was talking about before. This product has been around for a while. It is called the OrCam. I am now showing one on the video screen that hopefully folks, sightlings, as I like to refer to them, can see. For if folks out there are not sightlings and you're like me, this is about the size of a chapstick tube. It has magnets on the back that will attach to a set of glasses. There are different attachments in the box that you can use your favorite glasses if you want. But what I really like about this device is that I can point towards something and it can read it, or it can identify an object. And I'm hooking this up to a Bluetooth speaker so that you'll be able to hear in a second what's going on. So give me just a second to boot everything up. And this is, even though I've rehearsed this 100 times, this is when we hope everything is going to go the way I want it to. You'll hear my Bluetooth speaker in the background jabbering. There we go. Hey, it's going to work.
Battery is 100% charged.
All right.
Mobile app connected.
And it said a couple of things. You should have heard it say mobile app connected. I'm going to swipe to where we have
volume maximum.
So if you can't hear that, please let me know. Someone through the chat, or Todd, send me a text. Now you can do a number of things with this. I can read print, which is exciting. I can hold up just a piece of mail in front of me, and I use this. And I'd like to point out ahead of time that most of what I'm showing you is available through other apps, but it's not all available in, I guess, the same app. Or the same product. What the OrCam wants to do is to give you different cues about your environment, whether it's the color of things, whether it's the description of a room, an environment. It will let you read text, like on a piece of paper. It can also memorize faces, so that if you use this in conjunction with, say, bone conduction headphones or with AirPods, you can go into a room and you'll know that your friend Bob is across the table because you'll hear the OrCam say Bob in your head, and you can say, "Hi, Bob," and you won't have to ask who's in the room, which I just think is really very cool and very exciting. It can learn up to, I think it's like 1,000 faces. It's some crazy number of faces that is well beyond the all the contacts that I have in the world. And it can identify multiple people at once. So if you've got 3 people sitting across the table and you have all 3 of, and it knows all 3 of them, it'll tell you that you've got, Bob, Cindy, and Mark across the table. It can also tell you, if it doesn't know the faces, that you've got X number of people sitting across the table, which I find to be really helpful, because how many times have you gone into a room and the sightlings don't make it that much noise, and you just aren't sure who's there, and you don't want to speak to an empty room, but at the same time, you don't want to just be quiet and assume that no one's there. Well, OrCam can solve that for you. And again, it's just it's looking at wherever I'm looking. It can also do a number of things, like just give me other environmental cues. And let me know if I get too far away from the computer for this to work. We're gonna see what we can do with this. It can give me information about my office, so that, for example, if I say, "Hey, OrCam," and it beeps, what's in front of me? Hey, OrCam. I confused it. What's in front of me?
No relevant objects found.
Ooh, now see, this worked beautiful earlier, so we're going to try this again.
I am listening.
What's in front of me?
No relevant objects found.
Oh, now see, it's going to mess up my whole thing. We're going to look at my desk and see if it can tell me anything.
I am listening.
What's in front of me?
A screen to the right.
And it's right. There is a screen to the right. I don't have any people in front of me. What's in front of me?
No relevant objects found.
Now see, earlier it was getting my door perfectly. But because, of course, this is a demonstration, it's going to do its own thing, and it's going to be cranky. We're going to make him quit listening to us. It does have the ability to tell you if there is a door in front of you, if you have stairs going up or down, if there is a table. If I back up from my desk, let's see if it'll do this. Hey, OrCam. What's in front of me?
No relevant objects
Oh, it's
found.
missing my chair. Let's try this one more time and then I give up. Hey, OrCam. What's in front of me?
No relevant objects
Now see,
found.
this is proof that demonstrations always go south. And oh, be quiet. I don't care if you're listening. It's been telling me all morning about how there were chairs in front of me, and I use this thing for identifying objects. So since we're already headed down a road of abject failure, we're going to try one more. I've got a box back here, and you can teach OrCam objects. And so we are going to hit our little button on the side. Betty Crocker fudge brownies. Hey, and it knew it. And then I can hit it again, and it'll start reading directions for me.
Do not eat raw brownie batter, no comma L.
And we're going to stop him from reading because he'll just sort of keep going and he gets involved in columns. But you can use this to identify any number of objects that are in your closet. And I found this to be really useful if I'm looking for canned goods. Yes, I can use Seeing AI, or I can use a barcode reader, or I can use any number of other things. But this, I can just point at it. I can touch the side of the camera and it tells me what object it is that I'm looking at. And if that's all I want to know, then I can move on. So, if it's cans of green beans, corn, tomato soup, potato soup, whatever, once I go through the process of teaching this guy all of this stuff, it's able to do it. It also can do color recognition. It can give you basic information about how many folks are across the table. I'm really bummed that it didn't do better on our object recognition. After we hang up, it will do perfectly. So whatever, it's the way that these things always go. But I found it to be a useful accessory just to be able to give me environmental cues on what's around. They will tell you that the object recognition, such as the stairs, going up and down stairs, is still in the beta stages. You would never use this in place of a cane or a guide dog or other orientation and mobility aid. But it is something they're experimenting with, and object recognition is the next really big thing, just like Gary was talking about with the glasses that he's working on. We all want to know what's around us. And this is another tool that you can use for that. I'm going to go ahead and turn OrCam off. There is an app for this, by the way, that's
again to shut down.
That is on that you can put on your phone for all of the settings, because one of the questions that people ask is how the heck would you ever change a lot of the settings on something that's this tiny? And you can use a mobile app that you can put onto your iPhone or your Android device that will allow you to change settings, how fast it reads, how slow it reads, what the volume is, even what the voice is. You've got a couple of different voices that you can choose from. It will let you connect to your home Wi-Fi network. One of the things that's really exciting about the OrCam is it doesn't share any information in the cloud, but it does connect to Wi-Fi for updates, so that if you want to update your device, you have it connected to your home Wi-Fi network and it just automatically downloads it for you. So anyway, we could continue to talk about that all day, but we have other really cool stuff to look at, and we're going to move on. Now, a lot of what I'm trying to show you would look a heck of a lot better in person because we could pass it around and it would probably be infinitely more fun, but we're stuck with virtual, at least for one more year. Hopefully we'll get out of this whole pandemic mindset, and next year we'll be able to do this in person. What I've got in front of the screen now is a Sunu Band smartwatch, and the Sunu Band uses sonar waves to bounce off of objects to let you know if things are in front of you. I've used this like in an exhibit booth back in the days when we had exhibit booths to tell if someone had come up to my booth and wasn't saying anything. It has other really, it also has a mobile app, and we're going to load the mobile app in a second. We're going to show you some of the really cool things that you can do with it. The Sunu Band is also reasonably priced. It's about $299, so it's the same price as other smartwatches. What's really cool though is that this has things that are specific to us. Now we're gonna make this connect to my phone. As soon as I find where I put the speaker. What did I do with the speaker? This is also now when we grope around the room and we look to see where I put the speaker that was so convenient just a moment ago. Here it is. Okay, so let's connect to my phone. Let's turn the speaker on first.
Battery 80%. Connected to my Claude Edgar I.
Don't ask. My phone is Claude Edgar III because I figured no one else had one.
Voiceover on. Messages. 15 unread messages.
Now we're going to make what I call a sight-link accommodation, and we're going to slow the speech down a little bit.
Connected to my and Claude Edgar I. Connected to my Activate audio destination. Headings. Braille screen input. AV controller. Speaking rate 60%, 55%, 50%.
Now, surely all you visual people out here can follow along with something this slow. If not, you're on your own. Now we're going to load the Sunu app that I have on my phone. Again, the iPhone has really become key to a lot of this stuff. We're going to go to most recent apps. We're going to turn up our volume a little bit. And we're going to skip the speaker because it doesn't seem to be doing anything anyway. So we'll turn the speaker off and you'll get to just hear it through. Here we go. This is loud enough anyway. Let me know if you can't hear this.
Settings. Camera. Weather folder. 2 apps.
Now we're going to open the Sunu app.
App switcher. Sunu app. Active. Sunu street pointer. Sunu app. Settings.
Now this is way cool. It'll tie into the GPS of my phone. And if I want to find out what the street is in this direction, I can have it do it.
Hints button. Settings. Heading. Hints button. Navigation. Heading. Where am I? Button. An illustration of a blue circle with a cross in the center.
Let's see where I am.
Settings. Heading. Include nearest. Include building number. Back. Back. Settings. Heading.
Let's go back.
Settings. Heading. Hints. Navigate. Where am I? Button. My Sunu Band. Button. Navigate. Button. Navigate.
Now we're
selected. Navigate. Button. Places button. An illustration of a blue circle against a white background.
If I want to find out places that are nearby that are straight ahead of me, I can double tap on places.
Place pointer button. A blue rectangle. Street pointer button.
Now here's the street pointer.
Against a white background.
So I can double tap on street pointer.
Point your smartphone to discover streets in the direction you are pointing. Beverly Avenue.
And it's right.
70 feet northwest.
And as I'm walking down the street, now that I know I'm headed towards Beverly Avenue, the Sunu band will detect things that my cane will miss, like tree branches that are up above.
504 feet west.
And now I pointed my phone in another direction. And it said Oxford Place, 405 feet west, which is also right. And as I'm walking, I get the information from my phone. It's going through, a Bluetooth headset.
60 east. Messages. 15 unread.
Be quiet, phone. There we go. So, and as I'm going along towards these streets, I'm getting information from the Sunu band through a series of haptic vibrations that are telling me what's overhead. It's not telling me the specific object that's overhead, but it's telling me that there may be a tree branch that's coming up that is going to be too high for my cane to hit. So I know that it might be time to duck. Or I can use the Sunu band to pan on a building to find where an open door is, because I'll get vibrations. And then when I get to the open door, I won't feel any vibrations and I'll be able to walk through the door. I've used this to find elevators when they were opening in a whole bank of elevators, and you find where the vibration isn't and you head that direction and you magically end up right in the elevator. So I find this to be just a really cool way of being able to get additional information about my environment. It does allow you to do other things like tell the time, and it does it through a vibration system. You can set silent alarms using your phone that will vibrate on your wrist through your Sunu band, and so you can have silent alarms or tell the time. It does have a compass, and it ties into places to apps like Blind Square to be able to tell you places that are around you, or if you're headed towards a restaurant that you want to go to. And then again, when you get close to the restaurant, you're going to use the actual haptic feedback from the Sunu band, and you're going to find the actual open door of that restaurant. This is not replacing a cane. This is in addition to a cane. So if you're out there thinking, ooh, now I get to drop the cane. No, you don't. This is going to be used in conjunction with it. Now we're going to get our Sunu band out of the way. I didn't mean to throw it on the floor, but the point got across. And now we're going to talk about a couple of other things that I do that I use on a regular basis. One of the simpler ones being the Victor Reader Trek. I do have and sell the Victor products, whether it's the Trek, Stream, etc. And we are going to find it on this messy desk. And although everyone has seen a Trek before, what I love about the Victor Reader Trek is that it has GPS built in. And a lot of things have GPS built in, whether it's your phone or your iPad or whatever. But I love the fact that I have buttons, and I can easily just hit a button. Here's our Victor Trek, and now for the sightlings, we can show it to you. So it looks just like a Stream, except that it's got a GPS receiver built into it. I love the fact that with the tactile button, I use this, again, tying back to the triathlon. I a local aquatic center that's about 1.5 miles from my house, and I walk there a lot. And even though I've walked this distance 1,000 times, you start to daydream when you walk places, and even when you're listening to traffic, you just don't pay attention to where you are necessarily. And so I have the Victor Trek. I put my destination in, and it vibrates at me when I need to turn. Yes, I could use my phone for this, but I can also just reach over and hit a specific button. In this case, the 6, which always moves you forward on the Stream. And it just tells me what my next streets are, what my next directions are, and it keeps me on track. So I find the buttons to be infinitely more useful or convenient than having a touch screen. The other thing that the Victor Trek does, I think probably better than anyone else out there, is it lets you navigate in open areas that are off of the grid. So that if you record landmarks, and you can record any number of landmarks using your Victor Trek, you can navigate to that landmark using clock directions, or it'll tell you, if something is to the left, right, or otherwise in front of you. And you can navigate then using your cane, your O&M skills to get to that object. And you don't necessarily have to be on a street to do it, so that you can go across a park. If you're on a college campus, you could get to the math building And obviously, if there's something like a pond in the way between you and the math building, that's where your cane is going to come in handy. And as you walk around that pond to get to the math building, the track is letting you know where the building is in relation to you. So I find it to be an extraordinarily helpful tool to use in conjunction to all of the features that we've all known and grown to know and love about our stream, whether it's listening to books from Bookshare or from Bard, or for downloading podcasts or recording events, lectures, etc. Listening to Audible books. It's all just in one device, and it has nice, easy to use tactile buttons so that I don't have to be swiping as I'm moving down the street. Two more items that I'm going to talk about, and then we're going to get to my favorite part of this whole thing, which is the questions and answers. I do represent the HIMSS line of products. They've been around for a long time and have made Braille displays and note takers. Their current, the Braille display that I have now holding up to the video screen, although it's upside down. Here we go. Now it's right side up. It's called the Q Braille. The Q Braille has a Perkins style Braille keyboard, and then it has all the keys that you would expect on a computer keyboard, whether it's your Alt key, your Control key, your Windows application key, etc., so that you can use your Braille keyboard in conjunction, and it has function keys across the top, function keys 1 through 12, so that if I wanted to close an application, I would hit Alt F4, just like I would on any other device. If I want to go to my desktop, I can hit Windows key and a letter D. If I'm in a document in Word, I can write in that document using contracted Braille or uncontracted Braille if I want, and it instantly appears on the screen, in a format where Sightling can read it. I can go onto the internet and browse using contracted Braille. I'm using all of, if I want to use a list of links and JAWS on the internet or NVDA, I'm going to use insert plus function key 7, just like I would on my computer. So there's very little learning curve. It allows you to use a Braille keyboard instead of a computer keyboard, which is going to be a matter of preference, but I like having the option there. If I want to use a computer keyboard, I just reach over and use the computer keyboard that's right behind it. The Q Braille does have a DAISY reader built in, along with a clock, calculator, stopwatch, but a notepad, and it just works off of a 32 gig SD card, so it's easy to move files back and forth between the Q Braille and your computer. The other device that I have, which is currently hooked up to my phone, and we'll pop it out of its cool little case, is the Braille Sense 6, now being held up in front of your cameras for your viewing and listening pleasure. The Braille Sense 6 is the latest in the Braille Sense series, which has been around for a long time. I am particularly proud of the Android line of Braille Sense products, because I was working at HIMSS when the Polaris, which was the predecessor of the Braille Sense 6, was being developed, and I got to have a lot of input in the way that it turned out. So if you're unhappy with the Polaris, forget that I said that, but if you love the Polaris and now the Braille Sense 6 like me, and there have been a lot of improvements in the Braille Sense 6. It's running Android 10, which is a much more updated operating system. It has a ridiculously fast processor. It has an octa-core processor. It has 128 gigabytes of memory on board. You can download different voices. It has better hardware, frankly, than a lot of the tablets that Sightlings are buying in their stores. It does have a camera in the back, so that I can use this for downloading books. Camera for downloading books. Forget that. I'm thinking ahead. For using like an app from the Play Store that's called Lookout, where it will tell me what's around me and give me environmental cues. It does have an app for downloading books from Bookshare. You can download books from Bard using the web browser. It has phenomenal integration with Google Drive, so that if I want to see what's on my Google Drive, it is crazy easy to do. And I'll show that for you. We'll turn up our volume a little bit. We'll actually turn this guy on. Always helps when things are on. I'm going to sit it down. We'll turn our voice on. And it's in terminal mode, which we're going to take out of, and we'll slow the speech down again as a sightling accommodation. Oh, I need to get out.
Turn over screen reader S. File manager F. Voice rate 6. Voice rate 5.
Now, I do have other voices that are on here, so you are not stuck with using this voice. I can download any number of voices for it. But just to show you how easy the Google Drive implementation is.
File manager F.
I want to go to my file manager, so I'm going to press enter.
Kentucky price list 09. Download folder 716.
And I'm just hitting backspace to go to my drive list.
Flash disk 12.
And I down arrow to go to my Google Drive.
Google Drive 22. Arkansas Air Materials folder 121.
And now I'm looking at my Google Drive, and we're looking at a folder that was Arkansas AER Materials, where I was doing a program with Chromebooks a number of weeks ago. And I'm looking off of my Google Drive. I could open up data from here and it would open up into Google Docs. I have access to my Google suite of products, whether it's Sheets, Slides, etc. Before you get too excited about Slides, it's as clunky as it is anywhere else. What is really cool about the Braille Sense, though, is that it does have a PowerPoint viewer where you can load PowerPoints and sightlings get to see their images. And as a blind person, I can read off of the Braille display, and it's a seamless integration into PowerPoint, and I can look at my audience without, visual folks have to look at their notes or whatever. I don't. I can just have direct eye contact with my audience as long as they make some sort of noise, so I can be pointed in the right direction, I guess. It will show the images with just showing me the text, which I find to be extraordinarily helpful. So I could go all day about some of the features that are on the Braille Sense 6, about how fast it is. It does have a built-in GPS receiver, so you could download programs such as Good Maps or Blind Square and use it as your GPS receiver. My latest obsession, because I work for Hilton, is to be able to use it with the Hilton Honors app with the digital key to be able to unlock a door. And so that's the next thing that I intend to try out with it. It has your latest in Wi-Fi specs. It's using, it has USB and USB-C ports on it. For administrators who are thinking, how the heck would I ever see what's going on since it doesn't have a tablet on it? You can use apps to where you, like TeamViewer, to be able to see what's on the Braille Sense on your iPhone or Android screen, so that if you are a visual internet technology person and you want to be able to see what you're doing as you're going through the settings, you can do that. And there are apps that will also let you take control, so that as a visual person, you can set this up like in a school environment, block whatever you want to block, unblock whatever you want to unblock. Without being thrown off, without having a tablet. And then the student doesn't have to carry around a tablet that weighs a couple of pounds and that would attach to this guy and just be dead weight. So I find that to be extremely helpful and useful. It has just some very little features that I find really helpful, like leader dots on cursor routers to let me know when I'm at positions 5, 10, 15, and 20, 25, and 30 of the 32 cell Braille display. There is not a Braille Sense 6 Mini at this point. There inevitably will be, so that you will have a device that's not 32 cells that you can choose from in the future. I could keep going all day about this, but I really, it's only so interesting when you're listening on the other end, just to someone jabbering, and I'd much rather have this interactive. So I'm going to be quiet at this point, and which won't last long, never fear, and see if there are any questions, and then we can take questions in any direction that they go. And the dead silence is when we hope we actually have an internet connection. Looks like I do.
Hold on, we got some questions here. KSB, Dave. Brandon?
With the Braille keyboard, do you have the number pad, or do you type the numbers with the Braille keys?
So with the Braille keyboard, do you have a number pad there?
I do not have a number pad. I could plug one into my computer, I also can use my traditional Braille navigation keys for moving around like I would with a number pad. It's a very good question. Part of what went into deciding whether there was a number pad or not is size. You would have to make it bigger in order to accommodate a number pad. But so no, I do not have a number pad for you. But again, you could plug an external number pad into your computer and you would have access to one if you wanted to use one in conjunction with the Q Braille. And I didn't point this out earlier, the Q Braille is a 40 cell Braille display. And its name is actually kind of catchy. It's Q Braille XL, and the XL is the Roman numeral for 40.
Leanna?
So I think that there have been things that describe pictures, like digital pictures, to blind people, but you're talking about something that can show you something in front of you from far away. Does it also show you, like, if you have a physical copy of a picture, what that picture is? Does it describe it? Maybe?
That's a very good question, and it has a two-part answer, so bear with me. It will not describe the physical picture in front of you. However, if you have a picture that has a face in it that is a clear enough view of the face that it recognizes, it will tell you, like my son Cameron, if we had a picture of, and I've got to teach this particular OrCam Cameron's face, and I haven't seen him in a while. I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks for Iron Man, and we'll teach it his face. But I could look at a picture and it would tell me that he is in that picture. So that if you're trying to find a specific picture, it would do it. But it's not going to tell you 3 people standing in front of a snowy mountain cap. Does that help it make sense?
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, because there's a lot of things that I've heard about describing digital pictures, like on your phone. But you know, a lot of people still have physical pictures that they like to keep from when they were younger, and I didn't know if there's probably a tool out there that describes pictures like that, but I just didn't know if that was something that the product does.
It is not something they have looked at doing at the moment. It is certainly, you know, you never know the future that these things are going to go. So it is certainly a possibility. You know, you do have, admittedly, you'd have to have someone else looking at it, but you do have something like Be My Eyes, where you can have a human on the other end of your phone that would be able to tell you what you're looking at with a specific hard copy picture. And I'm with you. I've still got lots of, you know, hard copy pictures.
All right, Macy has a question.
Does that connect to, like with Bluetooth or something, to the iPad or a laptop or something?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I could hear every other word.
Does that connect to an iPad or a laptop?
The OrCam?
What product are you talking about, Macy?
The Braille display thing, the cute.
Now see, this is why I need to have people. Yes, the Q Braille can connect. Not only can it connect to your iPhone or a laptop, but it could do it at the same time. I can have 5 different Bluetooth connections and 1 USB connection, all happening at once. So if I have an iPhone, an iPad, and a laptop, I can flip between what I'm looking at on my Braille display from device to device to device. And that is something that I should have totally pointed out before. And this is one of those situations where you just forget what your product can do and you get caught up in whatever the feature of the day happens to be. But yes, I could use this with my iPhone. I could use this with my Android tablet. I could use this with my laptop. And for that matter, while we're talking about it, the Braille Sense 6, the note taker that we were talking about, can also do this. Even though it's an Android device, I can hook it up to my iPhone, or I can hook it up to my laptop, whether it's a PC or a Mac. Or I can use it with another Android tablet if I want. So that even though it's an Android-based device, it doesn't limit how you would use it just as a Braille display and hooking up to other devices. Thank you for asking me that, since I would have totally forgotten in talking about a Braille display, what you can hook the Braille display up to. Yay me.
A question from Aaron.
My question is, do you use computer braille or UEB braille?
Aaron wants to know if you use computer braille or UEB braille.
I have used every code of braille imaginable at different points in my life. I am a lot older than you, so I used computer braille way back in the 1980s, before many of your parents were born, because it was the only way of communicating with a computer. At the moment, I'm using UEB because I like to be able to use contracted braille when I'm writing in things like web addresses, or when I'm texting on my phone, and it's the fastest way for me to be able to communicate with other devices. Anything that is out there, whether it's the QBraille or the Braille Sense or other competitors, are going to let you use the Braille code that you want to use. That being said, computer Braille doesn't make a whole lot of sense to use unless you're in a specific field that requires it, which is one of the cool things about the Braille Sense 6 with UEB, is that you will never run into a prompt where you have to use computer Braille. Computer Braille's history, and this is one of my character flaws. I'm really big into sort of like the history of why things exist. Computer Braille existed because when computers came along, no one had ever thought about how you would use a Braille keyboard with a computer. And they had to find a way of making one character, one symbol work, so that the computer wasn't smart enough at that point to be able to see a number sign and an A and think of it as a 1. So you had to be able to use a Nimitz 1, which was .2. Well, if you use .2, now you can't use a comma, so it became .6. Well, there goes your capital. So you have to have another way of being able to tell a capital letter. So it was learning a whole different code that didn't necessarily logically make a lot of sense. And UEB has fixed a lot of that. And with products like the Braille Sense 6, you really rendered computer Braille to be hopefully obsolete and headed towards our history books and out of our lives. My apologies to anyone out there who is a particular lover of computer Braille.
Danielle has a question.
Bring it on. Uh-oh, I'm not hearing anything.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Danielle. I'm just curious about two things. One, you mentioned that the Browse Sense does UEB. Does that include like if you're entering passwords? Because I mean, we know on previous note takers of any kind that tended to be the standard of once you got to the password field, you ended up using computer Braille.
I can totally use computer Braille for passwords. And to give you an idea how I do it, if it's letters and numbers, if I have a password, and don't ever use this password because it would be really simple, but if it was just ABC123, I would write the letters A, B, C, and then I can write my number sign and write my literary numbers 1, 2, and 3. If I wanted to have a period, I would just use .256, like anywhere else. So if I know the UEB symbol, then I don't have to use computer Braille for passwords.
Gotcha. My second question, just out of curiosity, because the Braille Sense is so much faster, etc. How is the battery life on that?
I have found let me preface this with one of my cranky things. I always get mad about batteries. I have found the Braille Sense 6 to have a really robust battery life. I'm very fortunate that I have other devices here, so that like I have a HumanWare Brailliant sitting over here, and its battery doesn't do nearly as well as my Braille Sense 6. I've found that I can suspend it and have it go to sleep, and then it wakes up and it comes back right where I left it. The HIMSS folks advertise 17 hours of battery life. I'm sure that's in a perfect world in the vacuum of space, but I find that it easily gets through a day. And then it probably does, realistically last 12 or 13 hours. So I've been very happy with the battery. And that comes from someone who's usually not happy with batteries.
I'm usually one of those people not happy with batteries. That's why I wondered. Thank you.
No, I've been very happy with it. And if per chance that battery isn't long enough for you, it is an external battery, so you can snap one battery out and put another one in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? See, the problem is if you guys don't ask questions, I have to go back and go to work, and that's really boring.
Well, we're sorry to do that to you.
It's really not that boring. I love my
But you know
job. And I love what I
At
do.
At least it's Friday.
It is Friday, and I am very happy about that. I'm going to be using the Victor Trek later on today to walk up to my aquatic center and go for about a 1.5 mile swim to welcome in the weekend.
Excellent.
Dave, we got one more question here at KSB.
Bring it on.
Can the Q-Braille connect to other Braille displays?
So can the Q-Braille connect to other Braille displays?
It doesn't work in conjunction with other Braille displays. It's going to be its own individual device. So I wouldn't be able to plug in like a Brailliant or a Focus or something into a Q-Braille and run the second Braille display from the Q-Braille, if that's what you're asking. Now, something that you can do, and this is not what you were asking, but it's a really cool feature that I thought I would toss out there. One of the neat parts about using, and don't run to your parents and say that you want one of these, you want to learn on a Windows computer, but one of the really cool things about Macs is that you can have multiple Braille displays hooked up to the same Mac at the same time. So that if you have a class of deafblind students, you can communicate with everyone using one computer and multiple Braille displays. I've always thought that was a particularly cool feature of the Mac.
Okay.
Sorry, I was waiting for my invitation to unmute. This is
Oh,
Jane.
you can unmute. Bring it on.
No, pardon?
Bring it on.
Okay. Sorry, hold on. I turned on my voiceover and I was listening to Phil, who's running the Zoom in my dining room, and listening to you at the same time. Anyway, I was wondering, and I'm guessing that he does, if Todd has your contact info. I'm Jane Seif. I'm a blind runner in Louisville. I think we've actually been at a couple of the same races every now and again. I'm really slow though, so you probably don't know me. Anyway, I was just wondering if I could hook up with Todd and get your contact info, because I really want to pick your brain about some of the triathlon things that you're doing, but probably not in this context necessarily, because I have never done a triathlon, but it is something I'm deeply interested in. I've done a few marathons and things like that, but not, and I was a swimmer in high school, but I've never done like the tandem cycling and things like that.
I would be more than happy. My email address is dave@speedyturtle.net.
Okay.
Todd has my contact information. I would love to talk to you. One thing that I do want to state up front is that I might be doing all these wild, bizarre things like Ironman, but I am not fast. I am pokey. So,
I'm definitely pokey. Okay.
But what I would say about the triathlon bit, the most interesting part as a blind person on doing a triathlon is swimming tied to someone else. It is still probably my least favorite activity. It just isn't something, when you think of swimming pools, you don't think of tethers. It is not a natural thing to do, but it can be done. And there are a number of triathlons here in the Louisville, Indianapolis area. For folks who are thinking about ever getting into something like this, start small. Think about like a 5K or a 1 mile fun run. People walk these things. They have a great time walking. Only about 10 people in any given race are seriously competitive, and that's not you or me. So
That's what I think about when
Don't
I
start
run a
out
marathon.
thinking, huge stuff. Yeah, even with marathon, my first marathon, we were about 2.5 hours into it. My guide was like, "You realize this race is over?" I'm like, "Thanks."
Well,
it's true.
The first one I ran was the one where they closed the roads in Louisville way before the time cutoff. So I feel that. Yes.
It is a magical thing, and not to go on and on about this, but you develop a sense of trust with your guide. I've done cross-country ski racing. I'm a decent downhill skier. And now with the tandem bike and everything else, you develop a marvelous sense of trust in your guide, and you get to know each other in many ways better than your friends or your siblings. You have to really be tuned into what each other needs at that point. It can be a very intimate relationship, and you end up really bonding strongly with a good guide. And I have a fabulous guide for Ironman. He's a British gentleman who has just a fabulous accent that I could listen to all day.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I will get your contact info and be in touch.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Jane, I will send that to you. Dave, I agree with you. There's nothing like a British accent.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Todd.
I said, I agree with you. There's nothing like a good British accent.
Yeah, no, there's really not.
Dave, as always, we want to thank you, and you are certainly invited back. You have a standing invitation with TAD. We just really enjoy your presentations.
Todd, you know that I will always come back. I look forward to TAD. I was sorry to see my perfect attendance streak end a couple of years ago. It won't happen again.
Through no fault of your own, though, sir.
I wasn't going to point that out, but you're right. So I'm happy to have someone else point that out. If folks are interested in seeing any of the products that we've talked about, please get in touch. My email address is dave@speedyturtle.net. Track me on the 21st. You can see how slow we're going in Ironman. The swim and the bike are going to go pretty good. The marathon is going to be slow and tortured, because by then I'll be tired.
All right, Mr. Dave Wilkinson, we will see you next year. Thank you, sir.
Rock on. Thank you. You all have a fantastic day.
You too. And my thanks to Bo and Peggy for working with me to get our Kentucky School for the Blind students signed up for the Technology Assistance Division Symposium. We have thoroughly enjoyed you. You brought some we've had great interaction with you. You brought some fantastic questions to the symposium, and we appreciate you. And we hope that you'll join us again next week. I know that you're getting ready to catch your buses, so you all have a fabulous weekend. Helene, I think that we are ready for our final door prize.
Wonderful. And I just want to say thank you, Dave. It has been truly exciting hearing about all the technology and the developments of it this morning. So we now want to present our third and biggest door prize. It is a $100 Amazon e-gift card. Again, I will need the lucky winner to send an email to doorprizesnfbk@gmail.com
Helena, are you there? I think we lost you.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I'm not sure what happened. But again, we are giving away $100 Amazon e-gift card. Please email door prizes at nfbk@gmail.com with the code word Skittles, Skittles, in the next 10 minutes.
Are you dipping into your bag, Helena? Because you have gone silent. Okay, Helena has given me the winner of our $100 Amazon e-gift card.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with my connection, but is Mary Harrod. That is Mary Harrod, Harrod. Good.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Helena. Mary. Thank you, Todd.
And while we're, Mary, if you are in attendance, get that over to us. Congratulations. Congratulations to all of our lucky winners today. And as we get ready to wrap this up, I would like to introduce our National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky president, Jane Seif, to the stage. Jane, you have the floor.
Sorry, again, unmuting. There we go. Isn't that fun? Hi, you guys have done a fabulous job as always. I think every year I am like amazed at how you guys have grown and developed this whole outreach system that you have. So I just wanted to say welcome to our convention, and I wanted to invite you all to come back tomorrow and to let you all know, and even the KSB students and anybody else who's on here that typically might not come to the rest of the convention, please join us. The links are out there. If you need them, one of us can send them to you. They're also on our Facebook page, and many people on this call have them, so we will definitely get them to you. Tomorrow is going to be very exciting. We're going to talk to a blind skydiver, a gentleman who has just run the Boston Marathon, as well as some students at various training centers, and a gentleman who lost his vision and decided to go build his own house. So definitely lots of examples of resilience, and it's going to be an amazing program. I was going to say, Todd, our national representative is Carla McQuillan. I don't believe she's on this call. If you are, Carla, raise your hand. I don't see your name on the list. She may have been working today and will be joining us this evening for the TAD meeting and the resolutions.
Sounds great, Jane. Thank you all so much for your participation. And we are hopeful that we will be able to get together in person next year, 2022. Please be sure to visit the website. Again, that's NFB Kentucky TAD.org. You can read all about our presenter bios and get their contact information. And please give us about a week so that we can update the site with all of the resource information that we received through this symposium today. And I want to wish everyone a happy Friday and hope that you will join us tomorrow. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next year.
But night train. Miami, Florida. Atlanta, Georgia.